Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hey, That's Me, a commentary podcast. I'm Patrick Hotner.
I'm Brian Lynch, and we have another banger of an episode today.
One of my favorite TV shows of all time. Arguably one of the best TV shows of all time.
Cobra Kai.
No, Brian. We're watching The Larry Sanders Show, and we're watching it with Bonnie Zane, who is a casting director, but she was a casting associate on this show.
Yeah, she had a lot of good stories, and I don't know, like after watching that show for so many years, to be able to talk about it with someone who was kind of there was it was pretty special. It was pretty cool.
Brian, why don't you tell people what this show is?
No.
No?
Absolutely not. Basically, Patrick and I grew up loving commentaries on DVDs and, as we got older, Blu-rays. And they don't do them anymore. We don't get to hear from the filmmakers, the people that made the movies and TV shows we love. So Patrick and I are bringing it back. And we're getting all our favorite people from all our favorite works. And we're having new commentaries. They've never done them before. And now they get a chance. And you get to learn all about your favorite stuff in a new light. This episode is entitled Artie's Gone because Artie is not there.
Yeah.
So Janine Garofalo's character has to take over as producer of the show for one episode.
And it's season 2, episode 8. You can watch this show on Max. You can watch the show. There's a great DVD set of this show that's out there. Gary Shandling put together an amazing box set with great behind-the-scenes interviews with people who worked on the show, guest stars from the show. It's really, really amazing. And if you can track down a copy of that, or I imagine most of it's on YouTube too, most of the behind-the-scenes stuff, I would definitely go check that out if you like this show at all.
Is the most famous thing from the DVD or Blu-ray the Ricky Gervais interview? Is that what that's from? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a rough one. Yeah. The story behind that is Ricky wanted to interview Gary for something that he was putting out, and right. Gary wanted to interview Ricky for the DVD box set, but Gary was told that he could go first, and then Ricky showed up and there was an entire camera crew at his house, right? Is that what the story was? Yeah, so
Gary was really thrown off, and it just started things off on a bad foot, and Ricky thought they were going to tell jokes and laugh, but Gary was not in the mood for it, so Ricky was making fun of him, but thought he was doing it in a playful way, it seems, but Gary was just not having it. It was not the time. No. He didn't read the room, Ricky Gervais, which is shocking for Ricky Gervais. But it's great. It's great. And I find both of them very funny, and I wish they became best friends as a result of this, and they definitely did not. They did not.
No, it's very interesting to watch, though. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy that it exists, but it's one of the most uncomfortable things I think I've seen in my life.
But we're not doing that today. Watch Artie's Gone, and then listen to our commentary. It's so good. Our commentary is really good. We're very entertaining.
That's true. Bonnie is one of the most in-demand casting directors out there. Her big recent show, she did Suits, and that's gotten her a lot of attention due to the Suits-assance that's happened in the last few years.
Right.
And now she's working on Suits LA alongside a ton of other shows. You should also check out our Patreon. We've got a really cool Patreon with a lot of special tiers of prizes you can get and extra bonus things that you can get. You can find out who's coming on the show ahead of time. You can submit questions. You can watch things along with me before we record if you want. And you can ask me, you can give me suggestions for things to ask the guests while we record later on that week. We'll also send you signed stuff. There's bonus episodes of the podcast. There's so many things that you'll be able to get on there. You can watch the thing linked up with the commentary on one file that's available on there. That's a lot of work, but it's very fun. It's a cool thing that I think people should check out.
The top tier is you can write an episode of whatever we're about to watch, and Patrick has to act it out with you in person, no matter where you are.
And then Brian and I will do a commentary on that.
Well, I mean, that's asking a lot of me, but yeah, I mean, sure. I guess I will, sure.
And you can go to patreon.com/commentary to get that. I'm really psyched that we got commentary. You know what I mean? That's a big one.
How did we get it? It's not even spelled incorrectly. It's not like commentary with a K, like Mortal Commentary.
Maybe I should grab commentary with a K though, just in case we ever decide to change the name of the show.
Well, no, if we do video game commentaries, it'll be commentary with a K.
Oh, that's true.
And we'll end every episode with Flawless Podcast.
Anyways, pull up The Larry Sanders Show on Max, Season 2, Episode 8. Artie's Gone. We're going to count down from 3 and then say go. Press play when you hear the word go. 3, 2, 1, go!
They still use the static HBO thing for shows.
I wonder if that's just because they haven't changed. You know what I mean? Like, no one has thought to change it.
No, I think it's because it has a feeling of nostalgia when you see it. It's
Sure.
At the end of every HBO show, I fake click off reflexively. I do.
But it's also when they have the HBO sound effects, you always think of you're ready to hear the Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes, yes.
Always. No matter what show it is.
Sometimes Sopranos. I want to hear the opening beats of Sopranos. But yeah, you're right.
So we're here with Bonnie. How are you?
I'm well.
I'm so excited you're doing this. Paul Sims.
I know Paul.
Yeah.
Oh, John Ziffrin.
Yeah. This was an early show for you.
Very early.
Yes.
This was very early. I was a casting assistant for the fabulous Mark Hirschfeld. And this was one of my first shows. And this particular episode I loved because I related so much to Janeane Garofalo's character. Because I was booking all the talent as well as assisting on the casting of
That's so wild. Now, at this point, this is mid-season 2, right? Did people want to come on this show?
Yes.
Yes. It was already a cool show.
Yes.
Was there anyone that wanted to come on that you guys were like, I don't know if we can have them on? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. I mean, this was so long ago.
Of course.
Oh God, I love this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I literally have the half-inch.
Oh man.
I mean, I don't have a
way to play it.
VCR.
Right. Yeah.
This was the one episode I saved because I just loved it. And I sat in the audience for the whole thing because the set piece was so much fun with everyone. Well,
there's a
see.
lot.
Yeah, Porno for Pyros, like a full performance.
Yes.
Correct. Was it Jane's Addiction or Porno?
Yeah, it was Porno for Pyros,
right?
Yeah. They so how did you get put on this show? You're working in a casting office.
So I fell into casting.
Yeah.
It was a crazy beginning. I came out to LA in the late 80s and I thought I'd be like a writer. So I was hoping to get a writer's assistant job and doing spec scripts, and nothing was really happening. And I ended up working as a PA a lot for the companies that were doing music videos because it was the height of MTV. And I ended up doing that for a few years, working as a PA, and then a production coordinator for all of the MTV shooting.
Wow.
And then my sister, who became a casting director early on, she kind of saw that I had a knack for casting, and she says, you should try it. And then I was out of work. I worked as a personal assistant to a celebrity couple, which was actually the best job I ever had.
Oh, wow.
And my sister heard of an opening at Mark Hirschfeld and Meg Lieberman's office just to answer phones for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And she called them and she says, my sister has no experience, but she's my sister and she can answer phones. So they hired me and I ended up staying 3 years or more, actually. And Mark kind of took me under his wing and he made me his assistant, and we all kind of were divided up into shows, and I fell into Larry Sanders Show, which I had never seen because I think it was just the beginning, and it was starting to cast the second season. So this was my first season on the show.
Who were you most excited for getting for them? Was there someone that you were like, I'm so psyched that we pulled off XYZ?
This is the cool thing about working on the show with all the real people, the celebrities and the musical acts, is that I had come from this world as working as a second AD, as a production coordinator. So I had like the scheduling brain.
Right.
So I would reach out and they say, yes, you can have Sting, but he's available on this day for 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
And me and the ADs would just be scrambling and making that happen. So part of that was using my production brain.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people I was
There's
excited
so many
to
people.
see.
There's like 9 famous people in every episode of this show,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, and this kind of thing is Stephen Wright and Bruno Kirby appear later on, and they're great, and they have amazing chemistry, by the way, in it. Are those specific names are usually written in the script? Because you can get whoever you want at Larry Sanders at this point, I'm assuming.
Oftentimes, God,
Right. It's okay.
this is going to stump my brain.
Yeah.
I think it was a mixture of both.
Okay.
I remember certain times when can you please reach out and get this person, or I would say, okay, Elvis Costello and the Attractions are going to play, and someone suggested Elvis act in the episode, and he turned out to be genius.
Yeah.
Katie Lang was going to perform, and we turned it out just to be a genius actress in the scene. So there was a lot of that. I don't remember which came first every time, but I think there was a difference in that.
Would you go to set at all, or were you in an office? What was
all the time?
Yeah.
So I loved being on the set. So
where did they film it?
At Radford.
Oh, okay.
And we, at that point, Lieberman Hirschfeld, the office had a bunch of shows at Radford. We had all these Carsey Warner shows. So we were all there. So Mark Hirschfeld would bounce around from the Seinfeld set to the Grace Under Fire set, another show that I was working on, to the Sanders set. And our office was over in Hollywood near Park La Brea. And I would go over there and I would kind of camp out there. And to this day, of all the shows I've worked on, I'm still, I think, closest with the people from this show, the crew, and writers' assistants who became writers, and writers who are now producers, and Todd Holland directed this, and I've worked with Todd for decades after this on different shows.
I mean, it is a crazy, when you're watching the credits of the show, every name is recognizable.
It's
where
like
you're
a
like,
road,
oh, this person worked on 30 Rock for 10 years. This person worked on, like every single person is someone, which is great. And then, I mean, man, every supporting actor in this show is killer too.
What I loved about the supporting cast is, like, I remember casting, I remember when he auditioned. But what I love about the supporting cast is how the writers just kind of, it all evolved into who they were. Janine started eating weird breakfast food every morning, and suddenly Paula was eating the same weird breakfast food. And I went into Gary's office with John Zifrin because we were booking an actor, and I was telling them that I had just heard how crazy this actor is. And I was telling them the story about how crazy this actor is because someone had told me that he'll come into an office and rearrange your furniture.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Like that kind of stuff.
Cool.
And I'm telling them the story, and it's just a casual conversation. It's in the script.
Oh my gosh.
And they use it with that actor. The stuff that I was saying is used in it, and they let him play that part of him.
And he has no problem?
No, not at all. And then, well, like when, like,
he's like, how did you know?
Or when, I remember when Juliana Margulies came and she was like nursing Larry after eye surgery, and that was she agreed to that. And I remember when David Duchovny had this great idea to be kind of obsessed with Larry.
Yes. A great episode.
That was David Duchovny's idea?
Yeah. That's amazing.
Wow.
To push
That's
it that far.
Sure.
To push it that far.
Wow.
But this episode, I just had like a special place in my heart because I was always scrambling to book and schedule. And I always related so much to Janine's character.
I mean, as someone who also books, this show is like very important to me. You know what I mean? Like, it was always something. It was the thing that I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to work on a late night show, or I want to do this. And this show is like the closest to real life out of anything out there, I think.
Yeah.
That raincoat is amazing on him.
In his limo.
Yeah. Can we let's talk about Rip a little bit. Tell me any Rip Torn story you can legally tell us on the podcast.
I didn't have a lot of interaction with Rip. I had a lot of interaction with Gary.
Okay.
Who I just adored beyond. I had a lot of interaction with Jeffrey Tambor because I knew him before Larry Sanders as an actor. And he was just always so, and he also was teaching, so he would suggest actors for auditions and stuff. Oh. Wally Langham and I are still good friends, and I don't really have Rip stories other than
you're the one. You're the one who does not have Rip stories.
That I can tell. A great person that you guys should talk to at some point in your podcast is Peter Tolan.
Oh, I would love it.
Oh wow,
would love it.
Peter Tolan is.
Look at him.
My favorite line is coming up.
Okay.
Where you come from, the Gap.
I mean, she's so young there. They're all so young watching this show. Something I thought about while I was watching, did anyone who cast this show also cast 24? Because she's on 24, Penny's on 24, and Mary Lynn Rice Cup's on 24.
Right.
And it was just
maybe they're just fans.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It just felt like such a weird coincidence.
Yeah, no.
That's so interesting. Okay.
And originally 24 was written for Stephen Wright, not Kiefer Sutherland.
Not Kiefer Sutherland. Very different energy.
Yes. how much when you're walking on a set like this, it must feel like a real place, right?
Oh, yes, very much. And Peter Smokler, the DP, he worked on roller skates.
Oh, wow.
How's that? He ran around the set on his roller skates. That's how everything moved. Smokler on skates.
That's so cool. Is this a set, I'm assuming?
This is all a set.
Yeah.
It was all built.
It feels like a real building.
I assumed it was an empty building that you guys took over.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
wow.
it's a set. It was right there at Radford.
Wow.
And the stage is, part of the set.
Yeah. Who was the first person that you cast that you were really impressed with yourself by? Who was someone where you're like, oh wow, I'm doing it?
Oh God. That's how I feel right now.
Yeah.
Right.
But I know
now.
there's someone that you're thinking
There's
of.
a lot of people that I really look.
I'm gonna ask the embarrassing questions,
Well,
and that's okay.
it's just there's some discoveries
Sure.
that I love. There's people that I've cast as kids that grew up to be really wonderful actors. There's people who grew into roles that you cast as a guest star, and suddenly they become series regular or big star in their own right. I don't know how to answer that question.
Right.
Bonnie, what do you love about casting?
Isn't that D.V. DeVicentes?
Sure.
Is that?
Let's look it up.
Are you proud about casting him the most?
Well, he's a writer-director now.
Okay.
What do I love about casting?
Yeah.
First of all, I love actors.
Okay.
I love actors. So this is what I missed so much during the dark days of the pandemic, was not being able to be in the room with actors, and being back in the room with actors is so much fun to work with them, to kind of connect with them in auditions and get them where you want to be. And I love the process.
Right.
The discovery process is the best part about casting. The politics is the least fun.
Sure.
Yeah, it is DVDs.
Wow.
You're right.
Holy cow.
You're right.
Look at his resume.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Pam and Tommy, American Crime Story.
Who was he in Pam and Tommy?
He wrote the screenplay.
He wrote
for
it.
Did?
He wrote Grosse Pointe Blank and High Fidelity.
Wow, he's a talented guy.
Yeah.
Talented
He's
guy.
one of the Chicago gang.
Wow.
And everything goes wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there, and I honestly was in the audience, like losing my shit. It was so funny.
How now would they film multiple episodes of the talk show at the same time, or it was one?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I wonder if you could see me in that scene.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I can't go back.
I know.
If you do, you have to say, "Hey, that's me."
That's true.
If you ever appear on screen, just a heads up.
By the way, Mark Hirschfeld also cast Seinfeld from beginning to end, and there was an episode where the entire casting office was in the episode.
Oh,
Wow.
And every time I see it, it makes me laugh.
Do you get residuals?
No, I was an extra watching the tennis match with Marley Matlin as the
that's amazing.
Wow.
lip reader.
Do you have a favorite lot to work on?
I used to love being at Radford. I guess may it rest in peace at this point.
Sure.
Radford was home, and there was days where I had all my shows at Radford, so I would camp out there. I'm at Universal now, but we're kind of on the periphery, and it's nice to be. I mean, I was in an office. I rented my own space with my business partner for so long. To be back on the lot is fun.
Yeah.
To be back, I'm working in the same space with the art department and the costume department, so it's you're like
it's
on
Hollywood.
The set. Yeah.
It's Hollywood. It feels like the movies, you know.
Yeah.
What were your things growing up? Like, what were your favorite movies? What were your favorite TV shows? TV was your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sister always says that I turned a lifetime of TV watching into a career.
I mean, that's the dream,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what we all want.
That's what we all want.
What was your favorite show? Like, what did you love as a kid?
Well, as a kid in the 70s, it was always, there was everything from like the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, of course, the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family, of course, Friday Night, Love Boat, Fantasy Island. Then there were some shows like, was it Christy McNichol and Family, James at 16.
8 is enough.
8 is enough. I was so dumb back then that I had a crush on Willie Ames.
Sure.
God.
You still do, Patrick, right?
Yeah,
Based on your,
I wasn't
the
going to
Bible
bring it up.
Man
I wasn't
episode.
going to bring it up.
Buckful man. This is the best scene right here when they both are jockeying for the number one guest.
It's also weird to see Larry kind of thrown during the show, during the live taping of the show. He's
rare.
usually so good at it. Yeah, it was interesting. He needs Artie.
He's such a good actor.
Yes.
He is.
Did
He
you
is.
guys
Like,
watch
he is.
Judd's documentary?
Of
Yes.
course, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. And the book, I have the book over there that he put out. It's really fascinating. Just like getting to read the words right from his mouth, you know?
I had a really sweet Gary encounter. This is my favorite part of the episode. I have jet lag from the Gap.
The Gap.
Also, them both wearing red is funny.
Yeah.
The same.
Like, it's
similar.
not, I don't think that was probably,
She's just drinking.
yeah.
When Gary was hosting the Emmys, I was nominated for an Emmy, and the casting Emmys are not the same as they're on the creative arts Emmys.
Right.
So it wasn't the same night. But my friend, one of my dearest friends, was a Letterman producer, and when they would come out for the Emmys, he always took me because his wife never wanted to come out for like 24 hours for the awards,
right.
so he always let me be his plus one. So so Gary hosted, and we were going into the governor's ball, and I ran into him on the stairway, and I just was like so excited to see him, and I was complimenting him on his work because he had just finished hosting. I said, that was great. And he said, looks at me, he goes, you were nominated for an Emmy. And it was so sweet because why would he why would that come up
Of course.
in his night?
That's really
so
nice.
that's one of my favorite memories
That's
of Gary.
amazing. Yeah, the doc was so good, and just having all of that archival footage and being able to talk to the people now about him was great.
Yeah, there's a lot of love.
Was Judd around? I mean, obviously he was working on the show, but did you interact with him at all?
I remember when Judd was acting in the early days when Judd was around.
Yeah.
I remember he was there. Yeah, I spent a lot of time. Paul Sims was a good friend, and the Gap. All right, both fascinating places. I love Peter Tolan.
Yeah.
Right.
And worked with him for years after Sanders. And that's it. Even Stephen Wright cracked.
You got a fake drink out of that coffee mug so they don't see you laughing, you know?
I feel like this is an idea that Letterman would have done during the late night period.
Sure.
Have two guests on at the same time and try to juggle it. Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
No,
it's fun. Yeah.
Ford F.
There they are. So this, I'm assuming, shot on a different day. Probably. You probably don't remember.
I don't remember.
Would they shoot these in front of audiences?
Yes.
They would. Okay.
But it was like not a real studio audience that's waiting like they do for all the sitcoms. I had my memories of Sanders was always having to clear bands for SAG.
Oh.
And I would Taft-Hartley these people.
Yeah.
That's how I got to know all the bands.
Taft-Hartley, for people who are listening who don't know, is if you're not in
Our
SAG.
first president. Oh, no? I don't.
No.
No history. Okay.
You're not in SAG, but you are the person who has to do this job, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Like, there's no one else that can do this job, and you need to explain to them why they are the person that can do it. I mean, the most 90s looks right here.
Fantastic.
Good band, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was there? Do you remember anyone that you wanted to get that you couldn't get? It feels like they got. I mean, by the end, you have like Warren Beatty on the show.
Well,
you know,
Warren
like,
Beatty was doing the movie. Gary did
oh yeah,
Love Affair with Warren Beatty and Nanette Bening, and that's how they got Warren on. I remember that day. That was funny. I did not do the final season of the show.
Okay.
Because I had gone on with Paul to do news radio.
Sure.
So
Spoiler alert.
there's Bruce Grayson, who's one of Gary's best friends and our makeup person, playing Bruce, the makeup person.
Amazing.
And Bruce was in the documentary about Gary. They were super, super close friends.
Would that happen a lot? That they would just put
Always
crew guys in there
the
or
whole
whatever?
thing.
Yeah.
Unless they had to speak. Most of the time, it was the real crew, but then they added people. They peppered in people. Yeah, they used the ADs. Everyone was kind of themselves.
That's cool. That feels like a fun. That's the way it should be. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, let those people get their FaceTime. because they're working so hard and you normally don't get to see it.
Jumping back to Warren Beatty and Gary Shandling, wasn't Annette Bening also in What Planet Are You From? Weren't they also?
Yeah.
She was the romantic lead. That's pretty. So they were close.
They were good friends.
That's awesome. I'd be intimidated if I went to dinner with those two.
You think so?
Yeah. They're both pretty great.
Who do you get intimidated by?
Me?
Brian. I get it. He's a lot.
He scares me.
I'm a character.
I'm intimidated by I don't know if intimidated is the word I would use, but I do have certain producers that I work with that I really have to choose my words, measure myself.
Mm-hmm.
Others, you have to adapt. As a casting director, you have to adapt to each scenario, each show, each producer, each studio, each network. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to be fluid. Yeah. So there's certain people at certain networks or studios that I'm much freer with than others. And so intimidated is cautious.
Yeah, cautious. That's the same thing. Yeah.
Now, there's probably creators that you'll work with immediately because you like working with them. What if they gave you a script and you just didn't click with it?
Funny enough, that did happen. It was, I don't know if I should use names.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah,
two of my friends who were both showrunners, this is back in pilot season days when we used to have tons and tons of work.
Sure.
And I never did more than 2 things at a time. I still won't do more than 2 shows at a time. But they both handed me their pilots, and I loved one and literally could not get the other. Couldn't wrap my head around it. And I had to have a conversation with him and say, I don't think I'm the right person for this.
Sure.
I don't connect to it. And the other producer knew I was making this decision and wrote me a note on a buck slip saying, I haven't done this since prom. And it was really funny and sweet. I actually I saved that note.
But it's better that you did that up front.
Sure.
Rather than get in too deep and then you're like, oh my God, I can't do this.
How did that creator take it?
He was okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you worked with him since?
He's since moved back east and is doing a lot of New York shows. Okay. He was doing a lot of New York shows after that.
Wolf. It was Dick Wolf.
They're detectives? What? I don't get it.
Wait, so what does SVU stand for?
Law, and then when we think it's over, the order comes in?
I mean, this show is wrapping up. We're gonna, in the future, we're doing a few other shows that we're gonna talk about. But as far as your Larry experience, what do you take away from this as a casting associate? What is the thing that you bring into the future with it?
It gave me such an education, a technical education, because there was just how to do casting. I was putting together casting sessions with Mark. I was scheduling. I was doing all this stuff. It really gave me my introduction, and it gave me this incredible family of people that I've worked with, almost all the writers again, all the directors, still friendly with the actors. Still, when Penny comes in now, this was 30 years ago. When Penny comes in now, we still have our
your rapport
moments.
It's still there.
We still have our flashbacks.
Yeah.
It gave me the real basis for my job. This was my kindergarten class.
Sure. Is it hard when someone like that comes in and then you don't end up casting them for whatever the current project is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like,
well, I always,
it's not personal, obviously.
No,
but
it's never personal, but there's so many other reasons why actors don't get roles. But I'm so invested in, when Brian asked earlier about what I love, and I said, I love actors.
Yeah.
I want everyone to succeed.
Sure.
So when you're auditioning, we're a team. We're going to make you succeed. We're going to get the best performance out of you. Oh, there's Artie.
He made it.
20 seconds to go.
I love that your kindergarten was the best show ever. Although, Patrick, you said it was the second best show. You said Cobra Kai.
Yeah, I said Cobra Kai was number one.
It's the only one better than Larry Sanders. It's crazy.
But you're starting at the top.
On the best show.
It's hard. It's got to be hard to go on to the next thing because you're like, man, is it going to get better than this?
I also worked in this really incredible environment that Mark nurtured some of the best casting directors in Los Angeles. I mean, we came from this boot camp and we have executives. So we have 2 of the top casting executives in town.
Yeah.
Both came from there, Sharon Klein and Grace Wu. Patrick Rush, Michael Ketcher. There's just tons of us. Gail Pillsbury, who was my partner as well.
Mm-hmm.
We all came from the same camp and learned so much from Meg and Mark.
Yeah.
And Meg and Mark both became executives too.
Yeah.
And
there we go.
yeah.
Now let's see if we see any names. If anyone comes to mind where you're like, "Oh, I love
Rest in peace.
of course, a king." So funny on this show. So funny in the finale of this show too. Bruno Kirby, when he's fighting with
Oh my God.
Tom Petty.
Tom Petty.
It's amazing.
May they both rest in peace.
Yeah.
Lieberman Hirschfeld.
There you go.
There you go.
I interviewed Meg Lieberman during COVID. We were doing a live stream where we were talking to people who worked on Studio 60. And we talked to Meg for a very long time, and she was amazing.
She's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back in a few weeks with the next episode.
What a great episode. This entire cast is phenomenal. There's no weak link in this cast.
True.
And even the people that they bring in later are great. Like Mary Lynn Ricecup comes in later in the show, is also so good on the show. And you get, there's so many, they do such a good job of building out the world of this where you like care about the executives at the network. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people that you should not give a shit about, but you do end up enjoying when they come back or caring about if they get fired or whatever it is.
There's so many characters in it that, like, it just what you said. It's like I was watching Righteous Gemstones yesterday, and I was like, we shouldn't like any of these people, or but we root for everybody on that. We root for everybody on Larry Sanders. Not that Larry is a bad guy on the show; he's a flawed guy, but like, it's amazing. And did I tell the story of what Judd Apatow said about this show when I saw him do a Q&A? He did a this
show, meaning our podcast.
Yeah, all he talks about is this podcast. If we get Leslie Mann on an episode, he will watch this to know it. No, I saw a night with Judd Apatow, and it was Judd, Gary, Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jason Segel, and they'd show scenes and they'd all just talk about everything. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Gary was the first one because Judd Apatow worships him and started with him, basically.
Of course.
And he told Gary that everything he has written since he has written for the Larry Sanders Show takes place in the same universe as the Larry Sanders Show. So he keeps the same mentality, like rules are all, it's the same world. And that's how he, then you see the bubble and you're like, really? Does it though? But everything else, it fit. I think that fits perfectly. Like,
of course.
It's pretty neat.
I wish more things made it overt that they existed in the same universe as other things.
For a long time, everything I wrote was in, and this is, I'm not kidding, was in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Not one, but part two. Yeah, we're just where anything can happen, and it's just a weird. For a while, it was Wayne's World, and then I was like, maybe I should just write whatever fits the movie.
Speaking of Seth Rogen, slight spoilers for The Studio. Is that the name of his new show? Yeah, The Studio. Bryan Cranston plays Tim Robbins' character from The Player in it. Did you know that?
No, that's crazy. Why doesn't Tim Robbins play his character?
A great question that I have no idea. I just read that, and it blew my mind a little bit.
Wow. I had just heard a Seth Rogen interview this morning, and it really makes me want to watch the show. I can't wait to watch it. Yeah, it's great.
Was it him on the George Lucas Talk Show?
No, but that was amazing. People should go over to YouTube. It's called YouTube, right? YouTube.com.
Yes, YouTube. You can watch Lazy Sunday on there.
I can't wait to watch it. Patrick and the other two guys from George Lucas Talk Show had not only Seth Rogen but John Hamm on a live episode, and it was one of the funniest live things I've ever seen. I've watched it again. It's one of the funniest things on YouTube, even funnier than whatever that crazy Sunday thing is you're talking about. But not only that, it builds to something so absurd. Like you'd think it's written how funny this thing builds upon itself as the show goes on. It was really, you guys should check it out. Watch it. Go.
This wasn't meant to be a plug for my other show, but I appreciate that so much.
We should do a commentary for that.
I would love to. Thank you guys for listening. We've got a amazing episode coming out next week. It's actually coming out on the 1st, so it'll be out a couple days early, but we're very excited for you to check it out, and can't wait to tell you who the guest is going to be.
It's maybe one of our most watched. We're doing commentary on one of the most watched things we've done yet, correct? Like,
by far.
Yeah.
I think it has to be the most watched thing. And maybe the most watched thing out of almost any filmed film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would
any
agree.
piece of filmed media.
And you know what? People think because you said it's going to be early in April that we're doing a gag. Like, we're going to be showing, like, Citizen Kane. We're going to have some boob act like they're Orson Welles. We are watching something very real with someone who really worked on it, and it's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the train pulling into the train station and all the people running out of the movie theater. It's not that.
Still gets
This
me.
is a real thing.
Right. It's pretty exciting. We should do commentary on that, too. See who's around from that moment.
Yeah. I bet we could find the train if we tried hard enough.
I don't know. I think that guy's got a podcast, and I think he says some pretty shitty shit.
Sure.
Shitty shit.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Hey That's Me, a commentary podcast. This has been a That Was Just So Funny production. Your hosts have been Brian Lynch and Patrick Hotner. Music was by Alex Peabody, and our art was by Abigail Noy. You can find out more about the show by going to heythat'smepod.com and checking out our Patreon at patreon.com/commentary. The show was recorded by Stephen Ray Morris. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Please tell your friends about this show.